Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Loving the Game. I'm Jacques from the Yellow Cap Sports. Well, Yellow Cap Sports nowadays. I want to welcome you all and thanks for joining us. Tonight I've got a very special guest, someone that I've known for quite a few years. Been around on television, radio, and is just a very good, all-around great guy. Someone that lives, breathes, and literally eats sport for a living. And like I said, just a great guy. Eric Albers, how are you doing?
Hey, good news, Jacques. Thanks for having me on.
Only a pleasure, man. It's really, really great seeing you, especially in this time where we're not allowed to see each other and stuff. I mean, just out of interest, I mean, I actually work with Derek at Supersport. So, we've come a long time, as I've mentioned already. Derek, besides what I've just said, I mean, what are you up to? What does Derek Alberts do these days?
Well, as you mentioned, I'm Supersport, so that takes up a lot of my time. And then on top of that, I've got a production company, which is going along from strength to strength, which we're really enjoying. It's you can see half of the sign behind me. It's Raider Media. The Ray part stands for my business partner, Raymond. And then the Der, there we go. The Der part stands for, well, you guessed it, the first three letters of my name. So, yeah, it's taking up a lot of our time. And I think our biggest loves in life, myself and Ray's, well, it's quite obvious, is travel and sport. So we've created something that enables us to do both. And it's been a passion project that has launched into a really great venture, and we're thoroughly loving it.
We'll definitely touch a bit more on what you guys have been up to, because, I mean, knowing you, obviously, I know what you get up to, and you've done, as you've mentioned, you've traveled quite a bit and stuff. But I mean, I want to take you back, to where it all started for you as a youngster. I mean, just tell us, where were you born, and where did the bug of sport? Because I don't want to just generalize on rugby tonight. I mean, you're such a general lover of sport, and it had to start somewhere. I know cricket was your first love.
It was. I was born, funny enough, not in South Africa. I was born in Windhoek in Namibia. And I grew up in Knysna, of all places. So my folks moved to SA about 2 years in. And I wasn't really that into sport growing up. I was actually quite a chubby kid. And I was always like last to be picked. And then halfway through primary school, I went to school in Port Elizabeth. And the Cricket World Cup came, 1992. Now, obviously, before that, we weren't competing in the international arena. So this was very much our first taste of international sport. And that's when I absolutely fell in love with the game. And I fell in love with sport in general. And remember, it coincided with such a cool thing for kids. I mean, at the time, I was, 10, 11 years old. They had the coins that they released with it.
Yes.
And it was played down under, so in Australia and New Zealand. So games were getting underway at 1, 2 in the morning. And that was the first love that I had. And from there, I picked up anything with a ball. And funny enough, in primary school, I didn't have rugby, but I really enjoyed watching it. And I couldn't wait to play rugby once I got into high school. And that's when it happened. So from a playing point of view, undoubtedly my favorite sport's rugby. From watching rugby, closely followed by cricket.
That's interesting. I mean, I've been obviously, getting information about you and, trying to see what I can find that I don't know about you. Because, I mean, I've known you for the better part of about 10 years now. And some interesting stuff that I read up today about, and hopefully you can confirm some of them. But just out of interest, and a big question, and funny enough, someone's already come up with the same question, yeah? This is someone you know very well. I mean, I know him quite well as well. And that is obviously my next question. I mean, as a youngster, who did you support? You're going to have to be very honest now, because, I mean, I've read up some stuff, actually an article that you wrote in 2017, which kind of, I was very proud to read what I read.
I know exactly what the article is. Okay, so getting into rugby, how I fell in love with rugby for the first time. So I mentioned those coins with cricket, and that wasn't the reason why I like cricket, but was the egg before the chicken scenario. But rugby, that was the other way around. I didn't like the sport first. I loved the cards. So on a whim, the one day a friend and I went and bought some rugby cards. And in my very first pack, I remember there was I think a Dion Lotter, I think Val Bartman was in it. And there's this rangy guy with this shock of dark hair in a light blue jersey. And it was Joost van der Westhuizen. It's quite a long name, hard to forget. And I thought, yeah, I really like this guy. He looks pretty cool. And about a week or two later, he was playing for Northern Transvaal at the time in some random Currie Cup game. And I heard the name. I think he came off the bench. And that's when I started following. And so my first love was Joost van der Westhuizen. And by virtue of Joost van der Westhuizen, I became a fan of Northern Transvaal. So they were my initial team. I did switch over along the way, though, quite a few times. But I think if I really had to pick one, I'd probably go the way of the Sharks. And the reason being is being in PE. Remember when Super Rugby went the franchise route? Yes. And they started amalgamating the teams. Because EP at the time, people forget, EP were a fairly strong side back in the day. So, I mean, I used to support EP because I was there. EP actually played in Super 10 in one season. I think it was 1994. So they played alongside Transvaal and Natal because they finished third on the Currie Cup that year. That's how it used to work. And then when Super Rugby went the franchise way, remember the Sharks joined up with Border and EP. So by lieu of me being in the Eastern Cape, that's how I became a Sharks fan. And probably the most heartbreaking moment for me from a live sporting experience. Yeah, it's changed since then. But at the time, 2007 Super Rugby final, going down to Durban to watch the Sharks play. And we all know what happened. Brian Abana scoring right at the death. And I think it would have to be Sharks. I remember how devastated I was when they lost that. So it's hard not to go with. But you know, nowadays I'm actually pretty neutral. I support whichever side's really playing well. And I'll tell you what, I still go back to the Bulls. The Bulls play proper Bulls rugby. I become a fan immediately.
Yeah. Hopefully with Jake, it sounds like that's the plan. So let's see what's going to happen.
It does. And I did an interview with Edgar Rathbone the other day.
Yes, I saw that.
Bulls. And I mean, the Bulls are really in good hands in terms of that perspective. And they're in great hands in terms of coaching. But we all know Jake's pedigree. So, I think the Bulls are certainly rising.
Yeah, no, definitely. US was just the only, let's call it, childhood hero, or was there any other guys that you kind of looked up to or that interested you? I mean, what position did you play, and did that play a role in who you supported, kind of like, or not supported, but that you looked up to?
I actually played lock, funny enough, and probably one of the shortest locks around. And I always wanted to be a loose forward, but we had better loose forwards, and I was a bit taller than they were. So I think growing up, my hero, I really enjoyed Mark Andrews. I liked Val Bartman when I was very young, but certainly in high school, my hero was Gary Teichmann. And funny enough, I'll never forget, actually, I was in Gateway Mall on holiday over Christmas, and it was around 96, 97. So I would have been around 16 years old. And I think I just cracked the first team.
That's obviously Gateway in Port Elizabeth.
No, in Durban. I was there in Umhlanga on holiday.
Oh, okay.
And I remember seeing Gary Teichmann walking through the mall. We were at the movies. And I ran up to him and I said to him, I've got a question to ask. And he said, yeah, sure. And I said, how tall were you when you were 16 years old? And he said, I don't know. So I said, were you my height? He goes, yeah, I suppose. So I said, thanks. That's all I wanted to hear. I just wanted to make sure that I'd grow up to be as big as Teichmann at least. Because I harbored dreams of being a professional rugby player. I mean, I wasn't really good. And you know when you know deep down if you're going to crack it or not. And I was one of those guys who was staying after practice and doing as much as I could. I pretty much did the bare minimum, or as much as my talent would allow me. And, you know, funny enough, we were chatting. The guy who messaged Nana, Tyron Barnard, he's also my business partner at Radar. And him and I have a podcast together called Hockey the Podcast. And the other day we were chatting to Justin Reid-Ross, who's probably one of the best hockey players South Africa's ever produced, easily. And he was saying, you know, he was always practicing at Pretoria Boys. and he's renowned for his drag flicks. And he said the coach always said if ever he went past Pretoria Boys, if it was after school hours, you would see Justin Reed Ross over there at the hockey court, flicking in the balls into the net, practicing. I was the complete opposite. I would rock up probably late for practice and beg for the practice to finish early. So, yeah, that was my big dream. And I think it came to a stage where I realized I wasn't going to be the next Gary Teichman. In fact, I was playing EP Southern Zone. And I'll never forget, I mean, this is another thing about height. So I arrive at practice, and I was probably one of the only English-speaking guys there. Wow. And I get there, and I look around for my lock partner, and I see this giant of a man. He's at least two heads taller than I am. I go, okay, cool, that must be the guy. So I go up to him, and I look up, and in my best Afrikaans, I said, "Wat 'n posisie speel jy?" And he looked down and he went, "Center." And yay, so I said, "Slot." So it turned out to be Rudy Coetzee, who ended up playing for the Cats. Center de France. He was a Brit. He was the Andre Estes before Andre Estes came on board. But yeah, I mean, I was never going to crack it as a lock, never mind a flank. So yeah, unfortunately, the dream pretty quickly.
So I mean, you finished school, and I mean, most of your life, or a big part of your life, you were in PE. I'm not sure, Victoria or something.
Victoria
is where you finished your high schooling career, basically. And then somewhere along the line, I don't know if it was in your matric year or when it was, I mean, you won a modeling contest on Mnet of all places.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was in matric, so it was around the same time I was playing rugby, and I'd made the provincial side, which was pretty cool. And so I go and all I thought about was rugby. I mean, that was my entire life. I thought I'm going to be a professional rugby player. So towards the end of matric, they have the Mr. and Mrs. competitions in high school.
Yes.
And I ended up winning my version of it. And at VP, and one of the judges was a talent scout or a model agent. Okay. So, yeah, he approached me and he said, would I like to come on board and be a model? And at the time, I was dating a girl who was doing quite a bit of modeling overseas, actually. So, and she was making quite a bit of cash. So it didn't interest me at all until I realized there's a bit of money involved and a bit of travel, which was pretty cool. So I said, yeah, sure. So I went in, and then I saw this competition advertised on Mnet. So it was called, the show at the time was called Live at 5. It was hosted by John Vlismus, the comedian, and Candace Durban. Used to be every Friday at 5 o'clock, and it was live, like him said. So I entered this thing, and they asked for, it was called The Look of the Millennium. No, I didn't. And my agent said, you should enter. So I sent him a couple of photos, and I remember I don't know what I was doing. I just messed up my hair a bit and painted my face and didn't really know what a millennium looked like. Sent it in, and then I made the semifinals and flew up to Joburg, and we had to be interviewed by Candace and John, and it was live TV. I really, really enjoyed it, and the prizes were phenomenal, and I ended up winning it. So flew back again about a week later, and it was myself and this other girl. She also won, and our prizes included, I won a car, Toyota Taz at the time, a trip to Mauritius, what else? A cash, a watch, a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, like in matric, you can't even dream of this stuff. No. And one of the prizes was a photo shoot in a magazine at the time, which was called SL Magazine, Student Life.
Oh, yes, I remember.
So I'll never, ever forget it. Coincided with the opening match of the Rugby World Cup 1999. Wales were playing Argentina. Wales were the hosts. So I fly into Cape Town for this photo shoot, and the match was kicking off at probably around 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So the photo shoot started at 9. It was me and 2 or 3 other guys, fairly effeminate guys, didn't really know much about sport, which was fine, but not really my thing. And get for this photo shoot, and the guy's like, okay, cool, you ready? So I said, no, 100%, should take like 2 hours or so. Cool, I'll find a pub and go and watch it. geez, we got out of that photo shoot at around 10 o'clock that night. I missed 2 games, never mind the opening game. It's a load of crap. I hated every second of it. Photo shoot was rubbish. Did photos. We had to do same shot 100 times. The guys I was with didn't know what I was talking about when I spoke about rugby. Once we finished it, I wanted to go to a pub. They said no because of smoking and alcohol. It affects their skin. It was ridiculous. So I said, no, this is definitely... This isn't for me. So that was where my modeling days ended.
Yeah, thanks to them. This is and then somewhere. I mean, I think I'm not sure. Is it campus radio or you were involved with some form of community radio station or something? And then you got a break at Algoa FM, which is pretty much where your media career, I would say, started.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean. You know, with that thing with the modeling thing, the one nice thing it introduced me to was live television. So those 2 little stints I had in Live at 5, the bug bit, I thought, wow, this is something that I could really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that nervous, which I thought was pretty cool in comparison to the others. And that was one thing that stood out for me. I felt pretty comfortable. Probably if I looked at the footage now, complete utter rubbish. I was probably nervous as hell. But So one of the offshoots of that thing, I spoke about the prize that I won. So one of them was the thing to Mauritius. So we go over to Mauritius, and I make a bunch of friends, including one PJ Powers. She was on the ship. And another was Gareth Cliff. At the time, Gareth was doing Graveyard at 702. Now, I come from Little PE, heard of 702, but I don't really know anything else about it. So here's just this regular Joe. But, I mean, he really was, because at the time it was quite late. That the show that he was doing, and we actually became quite good friends. He was a hell of a nice guy, and we docked back. And of the group of friends that we were, he was probably, and he won't mind me saying this, he was probably of the quietest of the group of us. So his cousin and I got on very, very well, and we used to party through the night and sleep during the day. Gareth slept a lot more, but and then when I got back to PE, I noticed his rapid rise to fame. So he went from 702, went to breakfast, and then obviously he jumped onto 5FM, then Idols. Yeah. And I thought, well, if this guy can do it, what's stopping me? But purely from a personality perspective. And I mean, Gareth is a hell of a nice guy, and he's very out there, but in private, not so much. I mean, he's one of us. And that's what was kind of spurred me on. So I joined the local radio station I was studying at the time at UPE, which is now NMMU. And joined the varsity station. And yeah, a couple of months later, Algoa called, who's the commercial station down in PE. So yes. Like the PE version of, say, Halfeld Stereo or Jacaranda or East Coast.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I mean, how was that opportunity for you? You enjoyed every moment of it. You were you drafted as the sports guy at that stage, or what were you? Yeah, what was your exact role?
Yeah, I was drafted as sports guy in the afternoons. And that was the other thing, because, you know, I still had this love for sport. And once I realized that I wasn't going to be a professional rugby player, I thought to myself, well, what's the next best thing to get as close to the field as possible?
Yeah.
And well, let me focus on sport. I love sport. And actually, I said to myself right at the beginning, I said I wanted to be the next Darren Scott. And yeah, and Algoa called, and I was drafted in as the afternoon drive sports presenter. And I was there for about 5 years before I made the move up to Joburg.
Who did you work with on the drive show?
In Port Elizabeth. I started with a guy named Gordon Graham, he's now at East Coast. And you'll hear his voice a lot lately, actually. He does a lot of television ads. I actually heard him the other day. He's involved heavily with triathlons as well, an Ironman.
Okay.
And I worked with a guy named Lance Duplessis. He's still over there in PE. And yeah, just those two, actually. And Darren Mann I worked with quite a bit. Darren Mann, who was the breakfast jock at Algoa.
Okay. And then, Dee, what made you jump to Joburg? What was the... I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I also come from a little town, I lived in a lot of places, Pietermaritzburg being the last before I made my move to as they would call it, the City of Gold. I mean, what was the reason that you decided it's time to make a move?
I think the short answer was a girl. the long answer, I knew deep down inside that I had to move. If I wanted to make a career out of broadcasting, there's no way I could stay in Port Elizabeth. And no disrespect to the folks at Algoa, but I wanted to be in TV. So that was the big thing. And it was a natural progression. So, and Supersport is the creme de la creme, and not just in South Africa, in the world. You speak about sport broadcasting, you speak about Supersport. So at the time, I came up to Joburg. A girl I was seeing was moving up. She was a teacher, and I helped her move up. So I came to Joburg for a week, and I'd arranged interviews with Supersport and Highveld, and went to see them. And luckily, they both gave me a job. So it worked out perfectly. And Supersport and Prime Media have quite a good relationship as well. So they spoke amongst each other, and they said, well, how can we manage Derek? Okay, cool. Prime Media said, we need Derek in the afternoons, Monday to Friday, as a sports presenter on Highveld, and subsequently on 702. And then Supersport said, well, we'll take him for the rest of the time. So it worked out quite nicely. It was a actually perfect relationship. And it was great. I mean, I couldn't have wished for anything more coming from PE, not just getting the one job, but both.
Yeah. And I mean, that was, I think, 2008.
It was. I always remember years in terms of big sporting moments. So it was a year after we won our second Rugby World Cup.
Yes, that's right. And nowadays, you're not involved in radio anymore.
No.
But I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you've started radio media, which obviously keeps you quite busy. I know you've had quite a lot of projects that you and Ray have taken upon. And I mean, you've mentioned Tyron just now with all the podcasts that you guys have been doing. I mean, yeah, you guys are doing a lot of work these days. And I think now in lockdown, you've probably explored a lot of more avenues that we'll definitely touch on as well. But I mean, you came to Joburg, got involved in radio, got involved at Supersport, and things really started happening for you. I mean, I think it's to mention all the shows that you've anchored and that you've hosted and that you've been part of and stuff. You know, we'll go on for days to mention all of them. And I mean, it's been across the board, besides football, in fairness, which I know you, it's your dream job. But anyway, that's a big lie. But I mean, you've done rugby, you've done cricket shows, Inside Edge, all of them. I mean, you can mention all the big shows on Supersport. At some stage or another, you were involved somehow during the 2011 World Cup. You hosted one of one of the shows that was presented for the viewers. Along with at that stage, she had just made her break. Well, I wouldn't even say it was made her break yet, but I mean, you co-presented Motsadisi Mohono. I can't remember the show's name now, but it was quite an interactive kind of show that you guys did for the 2011 World Cup.
Oh, man, I'm going to kick myself for not remembering. I will get it now.
I read it this afternoon, and I didn't write down the name, but I mean, that was one of the shows that you did.
I'll remember it. But, I mean, Motsadisi had come off the back of Lady Reggae.
Yes,
so
she came third.
Yeah, she came third. So we had Lady Reggae, which Alma Smith won. And, and we always said, because the idea was, I mean, for those that don't know what Lady Reggae was, it was like a idol-style competition, but looking for the next female rugby presenter on Supersport. And it would include a trip to New Zealand to go cover the 2011 Rugby World Cup. So Alma won it. But we always said, the key is here is that we're going to unearth so much talent. It's not just going to be about the winner. It's going to be about so much more. And that's what ended up being the case because did Janina come second?
Janina came second, yes.
Okay. So Janina Oberholzer, which of course went on to host Talks and Chops, among numerous other things. And then we had Motsadisi Mohono, who came third. And I mean, we all know she's risen to the top. So it was a great platform to launch the careers of these women. And
you were actually part of that whole lady. You were kind of like the presenter of the Lady Reggae competition, if I remember right.
Yeah, I hosted it. It was a really good couple of weeks, and it coincided. I remember I was actually traveled. I went on holiday to Thailand in the middle of it, and the producer at the time, Ryan, when he approached me to take over this thing, I said no problem. I said, but the this is what's happening. I've got, you're so gutted. And he said, no, we'll make it work. So I was there for the majority of it. And it was great. I mean, it was really cool. But you know what the problem was that, and I can completely understand why, because it's the same that you experience in Idols and other reality type shows where there's a competition element where just people in the street can enter, is that people hear, and this isn't a criticism of women, this is anyone in general, they hear television and then they stop and they go, well, this is what I want to do. They completely drown out the rest. So you speak about rugby and they were, oh, well, I'll wing that part. This is an opportunity to get on TV. So that's what they see.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of people entering who knew absolutely nothing about sport. I mean, nothing. And they just thought this was their big break to get on the small screen. And I mean, I'll take you to some of the answers that we had. I'll never ever forget. We had this one lady, she comes through and I'd asked her a couple of questions and she was very good on camera. So she had that going for her. And I asked her a couple of questions in sport. She got everything wrong. And at the time, Peter de Villiers was coach of the Bucks. So I thought, okay, let me just ask her an easy one and then we can take it from there. So I said, okay, who's the current coach of the Springboks? She thought about it. She goes, Arno Carstens. So obviously thinking Springbok midfield. That was one. Another one was asked, how long in duration is a half in rugby, in a rugby match? So how long in duration is one half? And the lady, she thought about it for a while and she said, which half?
Oh, no. I mean, we got someone that's helping us along, yeah?
Super fan. There we go.
Super fan.
Super fan.
Oh, well, there we go.
I'm going to tell you what.
It's not, just remember, AB, it's not his night tonight.
I'm going to tell you what, something about AB. I just finished playing him in FIFA. So we've been playing. I met him through the Lockdown Sports Trivia, which we'll get into a little later, no doubt.
Definitely.
And we started playing FIFA against each other in PlayStation. So I know you spoke about the footballing show that I've never hosted, which is true. And I really am not a football fan apart from PlayStation. So him and I playing nonstop, especially during lockdown. Well, only during lockdown. And we just finished a nice little battle now between Spain and Argentina. I was Spain and I think we worked out, we've had, I think 15 different seasons of matches, which is crazy in itself. Well, probably a bit more, but anyway.
Now, I actually remember a few months ago when you got into this football craze on PlayStation for all, for everything that matters. You're quite into this whole FIFA thing, buying players, and I must say they should have had you on yesterday's show. Maybe you should get in touch with the guys at Supersport to get you onto that show that they had on yesterday, which I found quite entertaining.
I don't know. AB actually recommended it too, but I think I play enough as it is, and I know if I play more, it's just this never-ending wormhole that I'm going to get lost in. So I play a sufficient amount of football on PlayStation. I don't need any more in my life.
Listen, you've mentioned travel, and you know that you like it first of all, and I mean you mentioned it now during the Lady Raga competition. You went to Thailand, but I mean as part of your job, which is I think where the fun part really comes in, and just for those that don't understand, maybe you can just elaborate that television work isn't all glamorous as it sounds and as it seems to be from the outside. It's actually a hell of a hard job. But I mean, just talking about the travel aspect that you've experienced through work, which is obviously great. And I mean, knowing you embrace anything you pretty much take on. But I mean, you've gone to 2 World Cups already, cricket World Cups for that matter. I mean, one of them was a T20 World Cup where England won. I think anybody that follows you on Twitter would have seen you shared the pictures just a few days ago of when England won, the T20 World Cup. I think it was in the Caribbean. And I know you went to the Australian, which was was it the second? No, not the. It was the previous World Cup, not the one that was now last year. The one before.
Yeah, I've been to
3 actually.
I've been to 2 50 over World Cups and 2
Yes.
T20 World Cups.
I mean, which one was the best for you? And from a traveling perspective, not a working one.
No, there's no question. It was the 2010 one in the Caribbean. So, because, I mean, the experience is just amazing. It was, I mean, you've got the Caribbean, firstly, so that they live and breathe cricket. Not as much as India, but they really do like it. But it's such small countries. Remember, the West Indies is a collection of tiny little islands. Each island's a country. So
yeah,
the 2010 World Cup jumped between Barbados, St. Lucia, and I think Guyana. We went in Guyana because South Africa never played there. So we jumped between St. Lucia and Barbados. And it was magnificent. Now, remember, this was on the eve of the 2010 Football World Cup. So plenty of attention was on that. So not many people were paying attention to what we're doing over in the Caribbean. And once the Proteas got knocked out, which was fairly quickly, they didn't make the series. They had a very poor tournament. And then people really stopped caring what we were doing. So we stayed and we worked, obviously. But it was like, when you say it's not all fun and games, I've got to be honest. I love it. I mean, the working is cool. I mean, it's great. It doesn't matter how tough it is. You're still not sitting behind a desk counting numbers. You're experiencing the world, you know. And I've heard people say, yeah, it's not as glamorous as people think it is, and it really, really is. Hand on heart. You know, I had a stint as well, which was also really nice for a while on a travel show with Top Billing. So they used to have a show called Top Travel. And I worked with them for a little while. And that was cool from the perspective that I got to travel. So that was nice. And I got to see really amazing places. But once there, I didn't know what I was talking about. So, I mean, I had a producer who'd kind of give me guidelines as to what I must say. And we'd be in this magnificent resort in this little island in Mozambique. And I've got to speak about how incredible the curtains hang from two-story sleep. I mean, I didn't know what I was saying. I mean, I had absolutely no idea. I had to be coached the whole time. It didn't appeal to me. It was really nice. Outside of work, it was cool. But during, I didn't know what I was doing. Whereas in sport, it's a completely different story. I love sport. I can speak about it. I can understand it. Plus, majority of the time, you're actually going to watch matches. So, you know, what's not to love? So, yeah, I mean, I like it 100% of the time. Every single time. I defy anyone to tell me otherwise.
And tell me about 2010, you joined the Proteas to tour India. How was that experience?
Yeah, that was superb. I really enjoyed that. India's an amazing place there. I mean, everyone speaks about it. Yeah, plenty. You know, people speak about how New Zealand and South Africa are rugby mad, which we are. We know. We're also football mad. And I'm sure there are large parts of Africa that live, breathe, and need football. But I've never in my life experienced a country that is so besotted on one sport as India is with cricket. And one man in particular at the time was Sachin Tendulkar, who was a superstar. You know, and the in terms of the media, no one has access to the Indian players except for the official sponsor, which was, and I think still is, Star ESPN. So what would happen is every person and their dog in India are members of the media. You've got a cell phone, that's a camera, that's a recorder, the works. So there are members of the media everywhere. But the problem is they don't have access to players at all. The only time they do is during press conferences after the game or after each session play. So they try and look for any little niche story that they can. And I was approached by numerous stations over there while I was working there for Supersport to be a guest analyst and to give my opinion on things. So yeah, sure. So, and it wouldn't take up too much of my time, like 10 minutes here, 20 minutes here. So I'll never forget the one evening we did it outside my hotel room. So I stayed in the same hotel as the players. So I was the only guy staying in the same hotel as the Indian SA team. Rest of the media were down at this other place, which was further down the road. And I think this was in Nagpur. So the one night I went and did a live crossing with some members of the media. And we're standing outside the hotel and the lights are on me. So it's like quite a performance. You can see something's happening.
Yeah.
And we do the interview. And at the corner of my eye, I see cars start pulling over. And I remember I'm standing right outside the Proteas Hotel. Everyone knows where the team's staying. It's Nagpur, small little town. Anyway, so I finish up and I look, and there's this queue of about 20 or so locals standing there, and a lot of them have their kids. And they go, hello, can we have an autograph? So I said, no, I'm not a player. I'm not a player. And they said, no, you are. So I said, no, I promise you I'm not. They go, no, you are. And they point at the monitor, which this television channel who are using me are using, the feedback monitor. And there is a strap that says Derek Albert's Proteas batsman. So they just make, well, they just.
Yeah, it was just a mock strap.
No. It was a real one. They used it. But they just, because they think, well, he's never going to find out. Because I wasn't paying attention to the monitor. So they just use it in the hope that firstly I don't find out. And I mean, even if I do, rather ask forgiveness and permission. And secondly, they use it because they don't have access to players. So they'll just pretend. And another great story. So we get into Kolkata. We land there from Nagpur. So the Proteas had just won the first test. Great test match. Dale Steyn bowled brilliantly. Best bowling I've ever seen live. It was magnificent. He bowled on a road as well. And so Proteas are 1-0 up. It was a 2-test series. And they kept on, the Indians kept on touting it as the battle for the World Championship. And this was before the ICC World Championship came to fruition. So it was a massive thing. And unfortunately, it was only a 2-test tour. So we landed in Kolkata. And that was just after a bomb had taken place like 1,000 Ks away. It was in India, but I mean, obviously who would be the most heavily guarded teams with something like that to occur would, of course, be the Indian Africa cricket team. So we land in Calcutta. It was myself, my cameraman, Patrick, and Dave du Toit, who's now past us. He was a legendary cameraman, photographer. So,
yes, I remember.
So we land at the same time. Okay, well, let's get a taxi to the hotel. Next thing, the team manager for the Proteas comes running over. He goes, hey, do you want a lift? So I said, yeah, I'd love one. He goes, okay, cool. Got a bus for you. Perfect. So I said, fantastic. So he takes me away and he goes, there's your bus there. I was like, wow. So we get in, massive bus. Next thing, the thing starts moving. So it's just myself, Patrick, and Dave on this bus. Then we notice that the curtains have been stapled down. So you can't open the curtains. Then we realize we're in the decoy bus. So should there be a bomb attack, they'll nail us. Well, they're hoping it would nail. They've got a 50% chance of getting the right one. We were in the wrong one. So,
wow.
At least we got a free trip out of it. That was pretty cool. There were great stories from that Indian trip. It was really, really cool. I remember flying back. I only stayed for the test series. And when we were flying back, it was myself and some of the test players. So now we're flying from Kolkata to Mumbai. And Mumbai's got 2 airports, a local and international airport. So it's not a terminal. It's an actual airport. And the airports are like an hour apart. So the team manager couldn't travel with the guys that were leaving who were just playing tests because he had to stay with. So he said, look, could I look after the players that are traveling back? So I said, well, what do you mean look after? And he said, no, they don't really. Just guide them along when you're at the airports to show them where's what. And okay, it's a weird thing. Anyway, the guys, they could look after themselves, which was pretty cool. But anyway, so we landed in Mumbai, and now we had to get our luggage. And Ryan McLaren had made his debut for the Proteas in the test match, first test cap. So we go and get our luggage, and it's on the conveyor belt. So it was myself, Ryan McLaren, Hashim Amla, because Hashim wasn't playing ODIs at the time. What a silly mistake that turned out to be. Graham was with us as well. Graham Smith was traveling because he had got injured, so he didn't stay for the ODIs. And I think Ashel Prince came with us as well, and Paul Harris. So about 5 or 6 of us. So we're there at the conveyor belt waiting for our luggage. So we start getting it. So now I'm looking after these guys. So I remember that the bus was picking us up at like immediately so we can shoot over to the international airport. I'm saying, come, we got to go. Okay, cool. So you start walking out and I look, and there's Ryan McLaren standing at this conveyor belt with nothing on. And he's just standing and he's watching this thing go round and round. So I said, Macca's, come, we got to go. And he goes, no, my luggage is gone. So I said, I'm sure they'll find it. It's cool. We'll make a plan. He goes, no, but it's my test whites, my debut. And I've lost my test whites. Shame. And I had to go speak to Graham. And Graham, who was obviously the captain at the time, came and put a hand on Ryan McLaren's shoulder to console him and said, "We'll organize you another kit, I promise." Shame. Yeah, I don't know. I probably never got that kit. I have no idea. I must actually follow up with him. But yeah, it was a cool trip. That really nice.
Jeez, I mean, what a story. Derek, I mean, you also involved with MC work and stuff over the years. You wrote for Sports Illustrated, amongst many things. How was that experience? I mean, how long did you write for them? I actually didn't know this about you.
I actually didn't know either until you mentioned it.
Well, is it not true?
No, it's true. I did write for them. I wasn't a regular columnist, though. I wrote the odd column. And I think a lot of it was online. So I did a lot for the website. Yeah, I think that's exactly what it was. Because they had a guy working for them who's a good friend of mine, Gareth Rosley. So he was running the media, the website side of things for Sports Illustrated. And so, yeah, I did a couple of articles for them. Look, writing is my absolute number one passion. I don't get to do it enough. I really, really enjoy it. I love reading. I'm a voracious reader.
I was going to touch on that, actually.
I've got a whole bunch of books about me. Yeah, I read nonstop. And obviously from reading, I like to pick up the odd word here and there. So I like to express it on pages. So I really, it's something that I keep on trying to will myself to do more. I actually sat down today to write a blog post. So I've got a blog called Adventure Derek. So it's about traveling and sport. And yeah, I got about 2 paragraphs in before I moved on to doing something else. Actually, I wrote a press release today regarding Janelle de Villiers. I got a call from a company to ask if I could do something. So yeah, I really, really do enjoy writing. I enjoy doing stuff for Sports Illustrated. I was a regular columnist, which I really enjoyed. There was a newspaper at the time, which Darren Mann started down in PE, and it was called Sport Elizabeth. So it was a monthly knock and drop, but it just dealt with sport. So it was very cool. So it focused mainly on the Eastern Cape, and he asked if I'd write for them, and it was called 42 Inches, and it was about literally talking about what was coming up on Supersport within the next month, and that was cool. I really enjoyed writing for that, and yeah, I've written a couple of rugby columns here and there, but nothing too serious.
Tell me about your, I mean, like I mentioned, you've done some MC work and stuff. Some of your standout moments that you're quite proud of and that you enjoy doing?
Yeah, I do a lot of MC work. Probably the launches are a big deal. Without a doubt, it's the Cricket SA Awards. I've hosted that 3 times, and that's a lot of fun. The most, can I say, the most deer in headlights moment I've ever had in my life took place at the Cricket South Africa Awards. I can't remember which year. It wasn't too long ago. I think about 4 or 5 years ago. And Dale Steyn won a prize for best T20 bowler. So he comes up onto stage. Now, Dale, I'd known for quite a while prior. So I traveled with him a bit. And one of my best friends, Steve Hill, and Dale know each other very well. So they won the Toyota Rustaf Challenge together back in the day. They were in Zambia together. So, and at that time, sorry, I'm jumping back and forth.
No, it's cool.
So at that time, Steve always talks about this. You'll never forget. So Dale had made the Proteas side, and they played in 2004 against England. He still had that amazing wicket of Michael Vaughan. Yeah, and then he was dropped from the side for about 2 years. And there's massive haters from the international arena. So he enters this Toyota Rustaf Challenge, and he gets partnered with my friend Steve. So they start this event. It's about 2 or 3 days long. And they get into the car. They introduce themselves to each other. And Dale says to Steve, you know what? All I want, we need to win this. Because I want to be, in my life, I want to tell someone that I was the best at something. And so he said, okay. And they ended up winning it, and Steve won a Hilux as a reward, which is cool. Yeah. But knowing what we know now, I mean, geez, that's probably the most minuscule of Dale's accolades, having achieved. So I'd known Dale through that, and he's the nicest guy in the world. Anyway, so I'm on stage now. It's being broadcast to hundreds of thousands of people around the world, and plus we're doing it at the Sandton Convention Center, which is a massive venue. So the seated audience is around 1,000 to 2,000 people, easily. And Dale comes up onto stage, and I say to him, "Oh, well done on your award, best T20 bowler for South Africa for the year. That's quite an achievement." First thing he says is, I didn't even know I played any T20s this year. And that's honestly got Dale, though, because he probably wouldn't have. And I actually went back and looked. I think he played like 5, where it wasn't a very big T20 year there for us. So cool. That's the one thing out the way. So now I don't really know what to ask him, because he clearly doesn't remember anything to do with his performances. So now it was just after he had starred in that movie with Adam Sandler called Blend. So I said to him, "Oh, you've just come off the back of Hollywood. That was a cool experience. Tell us a bit more about that." So he looks and he goes, "Oh, it was nothing. I just stood in the corner and scratched my nuts." and that's what he did in the movie. I hadn't seen the movie yet, so I didn't know what he was talking about. But yeah, that's exactly what he did in the film. And he told everyone. He was just being forthright, candid, and completely Dale.
Yeah, that is true. That is completely Dale. Very, very down-to-earth guy. You mentioned Radio Media earlier too, when we started off. I think you just share a bit about it. Some of the stuff that you guys do. I mean, one of the big things I think that's on your annual calendar is the Dakar that you guys have been doing for, I don't know, good 3 or 4 years now. I could be wrong. It could be even more. I mean, it's one of the big things that I know that Radio Media is part of. Just tell us about Radio Media. Who is Radio Media and what do you guys do exactly?
Well, yeah, as I said, I mean, it's a combination of Ray and my names, firstly. And it's a production company. I mean, we wanted to put our powers together, so to speak, and create something that covers sport and media and helps us to travel and to see the world and to enjoy sport and to do all these funny things that are really cool. That was our big thing. And to have fun. I mean, it sounds weird, but that was our chief goal, is to have fun, to do something that we really, really enjoy. And also wasn't our chief bread and butter. So we both have our main sources of income, and Ray's got his own company elsewhere. I'm obviously at Supersport. But it started off as a passion project, and it really has grown. So, yeah, it was about covering sport, but in a unique and fun way. And we started it in 2017, and I'd been to the Dakar quite a few times by myself. And I'd worked together with 2 amazing guys, Waldo van der Waal and Hannes Visser. They're regular hosts they've got the TV show called Latville. And they had a production company you'll have called Plan C. So Ray and I joined forces, said, cool, who should our first clients be? Let's go to Toyota. We joined up with Plan C. And that's that was the start of this great relationship that the 4 of us have. So we've got 2 companies that join forces every year.
Yeah.
And we travel up to originally South America, now it's Saudi Arabia. And we cover the Dakar for Toyota Gazoo Racing South Africa. And then we syndicate it through Supersport. So that's another great relationship that I've got. And then on top of that, because I'm at Supersport Blitz as well, I can send through newsreels. So we do a TV show daily. Then we also send through daily bulletins. Then I also cover radio. Then we do, it's like a one-stop shop for media, basically, the 4 of us. So every day we're in the car. It's a great adventure, and you're traveling 600, 700, 800 Ks a day between these cities that you've never heard of, And I tell you what, in Saudi Arabia, it's been magnificent. It's a different story. You think, 600, 700 Ks, it's a lot. But I mean, if you're in a lacquer car, which we are, we always are nicely sponsored by Toyota. So we've got this very, very fancy Fortuner that takes us around. Hannes drives. Voldu sits in the passenger seat, and myself and Ray make ourselves comfy in the back. And we travel from city to city. In South America, it's very tough. The roads are rubbish. Bolivia is terrible because the speed limit's 80.
Oh.
And and you can't. And people say, "Well, just break it." Well, you can't. Firstly, because it's illegal. But secondly, what happens is you travel with this thing called a trippy. So the trippy is like a GPS on steroids. So we are officially part of the Toyota Gazoo racing team. And that includes Janelle de Villiers, Nassalatia. So there alone, you've got 4 times winners of the Dakar.
Yeah.
And so they're definitely vying for top spot. And then we had Fernando Alonso join us now as well. So this trippy registers everything that you do. So if you go above the speed limit, this little red light comes on. And you go, oh, if you get 3 red lights, then it immediately informs the ASO, who are the organizing committee, the French company, and then you get fined, but then your team, who you represent, gets docked time.
Oh, wow.
So we could essentially affect Janelle de Villiers' performance at the Dakar by speeding along between Uyuni and Kukuke in Bolivia, because we get there at 10 o'clock and not 12 o'clock. So you got to abide by the rules, and yeah, that's terrible. But I tell you what, Saudi Arabia absolutely blew our mind this year. It was amazing. What a country! Roads were phenomenal, wide open spaces. Obviously, going there, we had heard a lot about how conservative it is, how religious it is, and of course, it's a religious country. It's also a dry country, so you can't drink there. Highly illegal. And we thought, well, it's going to be pretty boring. And it was anything but. I mean, we're entertained nonstop. They were so hospitable. We had braais in the dunes. It was a great experience. But
that was awesome.
Back to the original question.
No, that's part of it.
So Raider Media, we're really enjoying ourselves. So we've managed to get some great clients on board. So Titans have jumped on board. We had Cricket South Africa now as well. So we sent a team to the Women's World Cup over in Australia. So we covered that for CSA. And we've done a lot of work with a lot of organizations, and they keep on jumping on board, which is cool. And it affords us a chance to travel a bit. We've got a very good relationship with the Titans, so that's helped. We've done a lot of preseason tours with them. We were in Namibia and Abu Dhabi. Yeah, no worries. We had a lot of fun with them. And it's a great product. And I've spoke about Tyron Barnard. So Tyron's jumped on board now. His official capacity is financial director, but he's also the brains behind a lot of our creative products. So he has a lot of that. So we've also dived into the podcasting world. So we've actually got quite a nice little podcasting platform. We've got now 5 different podcasts, a lot of which I host. Shock or a shock. We've got Daniel Gallen, the cricket writer. He's producing a podcast for us now from England. We've got a motoring podcast, which we've just launched, as all myself, Hannes and Valis. We've got a hockey podcast called Hockey the Podcast. One of the T-shirts behind me that I co-host with Tyron. And we've had a few podcast producers contact us and say, can they be under the Raider Media banner, which is great.
That's awesome.
It's expanding by the day, and we're really, really enjoying it. And we've got the Lockdown Sports Quiz, which I'll get to a little later.
Yeah, well, that's actually what we will touch on now. It's been how many weeks? I think tomorrow will be 7 weeks or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I sent out the email today, and I said Lockdown Sports Quiz 7. So it is 7 weeks.
It's been amazing. I've been part of it for the better part of probably losing, fighting for the wooden spoon, I would say. But you know what? The big thing is, and just if I can just say this from my side, and I see there's quite a few guys on the chat tonight that's part of the sports quiz, that we all have become, or gotten to know each other over these last 7 weeks. Out of the 7 weeks, I missed 1 week. I think it was the second week, and it's just been a hell of a great time. I think, especially what we're going through in this, this lockdown period and everything that's going on around us. It's just taking your mind off everything for a good part of 2 or 3 hours on a Tuesday night. And tell us about the sport quiz and how you guys have found it. And just tell us about some new initiatives that's starting soon. If I may say that, hopefully I'm not letting the cat out of the bag here, but share the whole, how it came about, how you guys are finding it, what is the future plans for it? After lockdown, is there a possible, once we get let out of our cages again, all the lockdown has become something, for the future, or is it going to end when lockdown ends? And also tell us about what's coming up on Thursday nights going forward.
Yeah, so we initially started it for friends of ours. And you know that I am absolutely besotted with sports trivia. So any trivia, actually. And going back to Dakar, one of the things that we do to while away the time during those 600 to 700 kilometer road trips is, do I have it up? Yeah, I don't. I've got a massive book called Pub Quiz Questions. I think there's something like 10,000 questions or something. And we play trivia every single day in the car, asking each other questions. And yeah, I'm absolutely addicted. So Tyron feels exactly the same way as I do with regards to sport trivia. So he actually came up with the idea originally. He said, why don't we make it a podcast? Okay, cool. So we examined a little bit and we just never got around to it. We said, no, cool, we'll get to it. And it just never came to fruition. Lockdown. And we thought, now's the chance. But instead, we don't need a podcast. Let's do a video. And let's do it with some friends. So had the one night, did it for our friends, did it on Zoom. And yeah, it was, we didn't really know what we were doing and we messed around. But initially, how we did it was we asked a question and everyone was on their own. And if you knew the answer, you had to shout out your name. It was ridiculous. Everyone was just shouting the names non-stop. It was this big mess. But the guys still had fun, though. They really enjoyed it. They said they liked the question. And it was cool. And then afterwards, we sat around drinking wine. It was nice. And so, great. We've got an idea here. It's quite fun. Let's just tweak it a bit. And we did a lot of tweaking. And we did it again. Also again for our friends. This time around, completely different version. And it was brilliant. If I do say so myself. Absolutely, shouting. We found a format that really, really worked. We thought to ourselves, well, why don't we put it out to the public? I think I put 1 or 2 screen grabs out the one day on social media, just saying, oh, cool, we're doing this the other night. And quite a few people said, ooh, how do I take part? And we said, well, why don't we try? Open it out to the public. And the response was crazy. I couldn't believe the amount of people that wanted to get on board. Sure. So we said, okay, great. We took in about 50 people initially, and we created them into teams. I gave everyone team colors, as you know. So instead of having team yellow cap, to make it easier for myself and Ty, we just gave everyone colors names. So team yellow, team blue, team green, etc. Team silver, who have won 5 in a row now. They'd kill me if I don't. And then we thought, okay, that's great. Now, how do we take it up a notch? Oh, let's bring on sportsmen. So I've got a few contacts in the sports world and got hold of them, and a lot of people jumped on board. So we've had the likes of Aidan Markram competing, Warren Whiteley, Farhan Bahadin, to name but a few. We've had people from the hockey world, which is great. Gareth Ewing, the coach of the SA men's side, he was with us last week. We had 2 female cricketers on board, Sine Luss and who was the other one? Mignon. So why is lockdown? So you guys host so rigged? There's no team silver is that good. He's one of the competitors. He was from Team Green. He won the first round that we had, and since then it's been all silver. And we've had some very, very big names join us, which has been really cool. And people want to be a part of it. And like you say, it really has launched kind of a subculture, so to speak. Every week, I've got the Radar Media, and I don't even bother looking anymore too much, the Radar Media Twitter account. Every time I go and look, it's got that 20 plus notifications because guys like you, and is it Mike from Team White, Matt from Team White.
Matt.
We've had Katu Low from Supersport. She joins us. She's also, in fact, I got an email because I sent out the email today. I do it every Monday, just reminding everyone who can make it. And then I fill up the gaps. And Katu Low, I'm not missing this for anything. Team White with about 1 million exclamation marks. So it has really formed this massive, massive following, which is really great. And it's almost like to me and Ty, we don't really need to do anything anymore in terms of sizing the thing. We obviously host the show, which is great. But then after that, it's like we've made this animal and we can just see it grow. and we give it out to you guys. And I mean, you've been amazing in terms of publicizing it, because the banter before and the banter afterwards. I mean, I think we usually finish up at around 11:30 at night with a quiz night. And I think I've seen conversations all going at 2 or 3 in the morning on Twitter between the teams. Oh man, I missed out on this question. So what we decided to do, just like we did initially, we're taking it up a notch. Rassie van der Dissen, who is also a bit of a business partner of mine. So we've also we've joined forces with his clothing company called Freedom. That's Raider Media. So we've got that very cool logo that you can see. It's our iconic Viking. And that Viking's been very popular of late. And people really, really want more of it. So that's been really great. And we have put it on caps, etc. So we're rebranding quite soon. So we'll let you know about that. But anyway, yeah. So Rassie has got this company, and he was one of the guests on one of the sports quizzes. So he said, well, let's open it up to the public, because one of the things that I find, and we've got to be careful because Raider Media is associated with the Lockdown Sports Quiz. What can potentially happen is some people can say an unsavory remark here or there when you're dealing with live people, especially when you're talking about a group of 50 to 60 to 70 people. So people have asked us, why can't we see it live? And yeah, we're very hesitant to, just to cover ourselves. We don't really want people to say the wrong thing and they're recorded, etc. So we thought, but we do want to give them a live aspect of it. So on Thursday, we're launching the Lockdown Sports Quiz live. And there we're going to have Rassie on the show. And that's going to be broadcast across all social media platforms. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And it's going to be Ty and I. And we're going to be asking Rassie about 20 or 30 questions, sports trivia questions. In between, we'll also be chatting a bit about his career. But then while that's happening, people that are watching can also answer. And we will take a winner from those that are answering as well. So if you get like 15 out of 20 and you're the highest, then chances are you'll get a prize. And Rassie's company is very kindly offered to donate a prize. First
that's
up.
Awesome.
So we're very, very excited. So that's just taking it up another level. So it's amazing what you can achieve when you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs, which a lot of people have done because of lockdown.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, this show that
exactly. And it's been a great show.
It's amazing how the creativity has just come out of people from all walks of life and from all spheres and stuff. It's just been an amazing time. It's as bad as it's been. It's actually been very good, I think, in most aspects, really.
And likewise with yours. Yours has created a massive following. So well done.
Yeah, no, thanks for the support, and I mean, I appreciate it. And I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's trying to do something that already exists, but trying to do it differently, and I think that's what's going to be nice about the Thursday lockdown quiz that you're going to be bringing up. I think it's a brilliant concept, and I think you're going to be pulling a hell of a lot of people from that alone as well. And hopefully, I just don't know how you're gonna carry on after lockdown, with the Tuesday night thing, because you're gonna probably have to do a get together of some sorts, but that's gonna be difficult, because I think the nice thing about this platform that you have now is that you can be anywhere in the world. I mean, you've got a hell of a guest coming on tomorrow night of all things, which is, I must take my hat off. Well done.
Don't mention it yet, Shame. He actually messaged me tonight saying he's quadruple booked himself. So I'm not going to mention it until we officially confirm. He gave me this long message today, apologizing profusely. So
hopefully somewhere along the line he will make it up if he can't make it tomorrow. So I won't say anything more than that. For anybody that hasn't.
He's guaranteed he has to join us now. There's no question.
You can't make a mistake like that and not deliver. So I mean, well done on that. And I think all the best for the future. Definitely, I can't not see this thing grow. Not grow any bigger. I mean, it's gonna get. I hope you're ready for what like you said. It's an animal, and those animals don't know where to stop normally.
Yeah, it's been great. I keep on saying the same words, but it really has blown us away with the responses. And we've had corporates contact us and saying, can we do? We're actually taking it up to that as well. So we're doing it for corporate companies to and then we're expanding to normal general knowledge. And I think, I don't know, I'd like to think that people say, oh, but it's just a trivia, but I think we create a bit of a unique spin to it. I think Tyron and I as hosts aren't too bad. But that, I think the format works nicely. We incorporate audio, visual aspects. Justin Reed, Ross Dane, Clayton, Darren Keats, Tyron just messaged us. There's going to be the next guest for tomorrow night. So, yeah, massive names that just keep on jumping on board. And we're really proud of this little guy that we've created and just seen it blossom.
No, it's brilliant. I mean, thanks for that. I mean, I think keeps a lot of us sane at this stage, because you need that at this stage of the game, sitting at home, having no, what's the word, thing to get out of. I mean, it really just takes your mind off everything and anything. It's really, really being awesome. And, just getting to meet other people. I'm following people, and I've got people following me. I won't drop names and stuff, but the last 2 weeks I've even had some wonderful sports people follow me, and I've shared that with you on WhatsApp, which is really, really cool. So yeah, it's just nice. And I think the nice thing about the thing that you guys bring in some sports stars, it just shows to us, the us regular Joes, how they are also just regular Joes. I mean, besides being a Springbok captain like a Warren Whiteley or Albie Morkel that was there the other night. I mean, I have to share this story. I mean, Albie Morkel was on, I think, 2 weeks ago, and it was him. Aiden Markram was in that same show, and I mean, it's just, there's been so many guys, it's been crazy. But I mean, the funny thing is, so on Zoom, you've got this chat function where you've got to, if you've got to chat to your team or someone specifically, you've got to select them first. Otherwise, you're chatting to the whole, all 50 people that's there. And then obviously, one of Albie's friends, I think, what was his name? Rulo van der Merwe was also there. Somewhere along the line, they were sharing numbers, and Albie dropped his phone number for the whole group of people to see. I don't know if you saw that. That was the most hilarious thing. I doubt that anybody took his number, because I think it just also shows you the respect that people have in that group. It's just awesome. And I mean, just carry on with it. Both you and Tyron, you guys have been really, really well in doing it. And like you said, I mean, the show's just gone from strength to strength. The quality of the show is getting better. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to bring up next. So, I mean, whether we're fighting for the wooden spoon or not, while we're at it, I mean, Team Silver's got a good target on their back, as they very well know now. The banter has shifted a little bit this last week. If you haven't noticed, Derek, Team Yellow has now changed their target. Team White's not so much a factor anymore, if they're watching tonight. But anyway, it's such great fun, and thank you for that. And lastly, I mean, thanks for joining me tonight. It was really nice getting to know you and telling some stories about stuff that you've done and where you've come from. And I mean, just I think getting to know you a little bit better. It's really been fun. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, D.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. And thanks for having me, and well done to you for putting on a phenomenal product. And I must just say thanks, because I know a lot of them are watching, to the competitors that compete in the Lockdown Sports Quiz, because without them it would be nothing. And the thing it's been humbling, to say the least. And we really, really enjoy having them on board. And here's to plenty more Lockdown Sports Quizzes in the future.